Like, I think everyone has to have a mission behind what they're doing. Maybe it's to silence the critic that's been in your brain, or it's to shut up a naysayer or a hater or people that told you you're never going to do this. Those are very strong fueling centers.
Being an entrepreneur by itself, you go through these ups and downs, these hurdles. Like, it's a roller coaster.
If you can have 10% of it etched and burning in your heart of some strong calling or purpose or mission or some score you're settling, you'll be invincible.
All right, guys, I have a special guest here. He is a dear friend of mine. He is a 24-year mortgage advisor, 2-time Taekwondo world champion, and a former Team USA co-head coach. He's also the host of LFG Energy podcast and the founder of LFG Society. Thanks, Arjun, for being on the show today. I'm so excited to hear your story.
I'm really excited to be here, my friend. Thank you for having me.
I just want to tell everybody how we met, because I think this is such
a classic story.
It's such a good story.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that you were in the same mastermind as I did, or I was, because I don't think you ever came to an event.
Nope. That was my first one.
Well, this was like for everybody to come. We were seeing Trent Shelton, Jesse Itzler, the greats.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And everyone knew you. And I was like, well, I don't know this guy. So he comes over and he's like, oh my God, I love your shoes. And I was like, wow, thank you. Where'd you get them?
Yeah.
Well, I got them in Prada, or at the Prada store in Milan. The first one, it was, no way, my wife would love them. And I thought that was so cool that you were like, my wife would love them. And then you told me about like her dream to, be in fashion.
Yeah.
And is it to design?
Yes, she wants to design clothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was our first connection. And then you just jumped on Instagram Live and like introduced me, because we talked about the color blue.
Mm-hmm.
So blue, if you don't know, means trust. It's probably if you're looking to close any deal,
Wear blue.
Wear navy. Not baby blue, but like navy specifically.
That's what you said.
So you were really inspired by that, and that's how our friendship started.
It did, yeah. It was magic.
It was magic.
Yeah.
So, Arjun, you have been in a mortgage advisor or in the mortgage industry for over 24 years.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about, how has it been? I know that you have your brother Neil and your sister Shivani all working together in this family industry. What are some of the challenges working with family?
Well, for us, it's not what most people would assume, because they think that working with your siblings or family means that it's constantly dramatic, there's fighting. No, it's actually not at all. I mean, yes, it's not perfect all the time. There's some things that maybe we have disagreements on or whatever, but it's never quite like a situation where it gets contentious to the point where like no one's talking to each other. Like, we all really respect and love each other, and we all, to what you and I were talking about offline here before we got started, we stay in very distinct and separate lanes. Mm-hmm. So there's never any crossover. And I think that's probably what's fueled the success of this like working, family relationship and dynamic over the years. Because if we did the exact same things and we were kind of competing, it's only natural, especially as siblings, that you would be competitive or more competitive with one another. But we're not at all. Like, everybody does different things. Everyone has a slightly different brand. And even though we're all in mortgage, our brands and how we reach people and ultimately what some of our bigger picture goals are all so different. Like, Neil's is totally different, his vision and what he's trying to do. Mine's so different. Shivani's and the impact she's looking to have. So that's how we've made it work.
Yeah.
But we're lucky that way, because we get to be around each other, even if it's not physically in the same city. Like, we're online with each other and we're talking to each other constantly, and it's a gift. So I try and recognize it for that. Like, I get to be really close and in contact with my siblings all the time, and we've never killed each other. So yeah, it's good.
That's good, because I have a lot of siblings and I don't know if I could work with them. But
that's
it's
what
good
most people say, yeah.
It's nice that you recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you probably help each other more than, like you said, compete with each other.
Yes.
So I want to just talk about your style. I love your style. I love that you care about the way you present yourself, because it really shows. And I think that also speaks to your audience, where I'm just going to use your brother, for example. Sorry, Neil. I haven't met you yet, but what works for him, doesn't work for you.
Yeah.
And that's based on personality, wouldn't you say?
It's a personality thing. And it's not to say that one is better than the other. There's a lot of people that are in the casual look that do very well. Like Gary Vee's, who comes to mind, right? Who my brother really looks up to and admires and has been like a huge mentor for him. And now they've got a friendship, which is great, but it's very similar. The backwards hat, t-shirt, and jeans, it's very unassuming, but it's because it's all about the substance. And I respect that a lot.
Yep.
And it works. It really works for my brother. It's not to say, because I've seen him wear a suit, it's rare. It's a real rare sighting. It's like an artifact if you have a photo of it. Like you should hold on to it. You could probably make money and sell it. Like at an occasional wedding or something, he'll wear a suit. But he looks great in a suit when he wants to, so he could easily pull the look off. But this is what he prefers. I've always, since I was young, and my obsession with suits was because I would watch my father get ready for work. And I can remember this as young as like being like, say, 3 or 4 years old. And I'd watch him get ready for work. And I'd see, it was almost like magic. When he put on his suit, it was almost like he was this extra powerful guy, right? And there was some kind of energy with it. Like he walked a little differently. It just energetically, everything shifted. And so I just assumed suits with success, with power, with influence, with impact, like all the things that I emulated or saw my dad doing, I connected it all back to wearing a suit. So I just always wanted to wear a suit, like since I was younger. And always be like mindful of how I dressed and how I looked, because I also recognized the moment I started putting on suits or just dressing or paying more attention to what it is I'd wear, the old expression, right? That if you look good, you feel good, and then you do good, right? And I would feel that energetic shift. So I just kind of got obsessed with it. And that's where it all started, was from watching my dad. But it works for me in that sense. And it works for my brother in the casual sense.
Yeah.
And there isn't one that's right or wrong. I think it has to match with your personality. And for me, just because of that early conditioning and from the youngest of ages, that's what I associated with, and I was just very drawn to it. And I'm obsessed with it. And this is what how you and I kind of struck up a conversation, right?
Yeah.
I think I was wearing a brand new in fact, I remember exactly what I was wearing because I just had my designer friend do it for me. Who's my tailor, and I do all my suits custom through her. And you've met her, or like you guys at least have connected. But I just wore it, and then I was wearing it that day. I remember what you were wearing, and then we just struck up our friendship. But I guess that kind of likeness is always drawn towards each other.
Yeah, for sure. Like attracts like.
That's right. Yeah.
But I love how that you talk about this to your community because, mortgage industry, real estate industry has been struggling, and you're very vocal about that. And I do love that authenticity, and I'm sure that's what draws in your community as well. And I do like that you talk about all the things, right, that create success and what makes you stand out. This is why what I love to hear about your Better Human project. You're going to be having on February 20th, which I will be attending. So I would love...
And I really appreciate that effort because I know what you're doing to make that work and be there, so it means a lot.
Yeah, of course. I wouldn't miss it. And
Thank you.
I'm really excited this will be released, so this will be before.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about what drove you to create or put on this event. Yeah,
so I've put on for the last few years industry-related events because I'm very passionate about the mortgage and real estate space, which fall under the same umbrella.
Yep.
Elevating to be better marketers, better communicators, because I feel that is the counter punch or the pivot to disruption. And our industry has been no stranger to disruption. I think every industry is under a bit of it because of AI and other things that are happening. And the economy is constantly changing, new administrations, like things are just going to continually change, if anything, at a much faster speed. And the counteraction to that is, authenticity and, having your own uniqueness and having a brand, like all these things that I advocate for. So I've put on these events because I want the industry to get better. And I feel like there's so much going on. And even myself, I'm a byproduct of it, where I see like everything is about tactics and you need to do this, you need to do that if you want to get better at business. And, you and I were in that mastermind. Like we know because it's being taught to us and it's all great stuff. But I try and take it a step back because I said, look, if everyone keeps having access to these things, but yet so few people are actually like forging ahead. Sometimes you go year after year back to the same mastermind or the same event. They're talking about slightly different things, but ultimately the same themes. But some people are literally in the exact same spot, sometimes worse, slightly worse off, but they keep coming back. I'm like, why is that? Yeah, there's some personality traits, and that's just maybe the law of averages in human nature. Some people will do better, some will be stuck, some will regress. But then I thought, you know what, actually, what is it about those people given access to the same resources, the same market, the same information? What's making them end up in a different spot than somebody else? You know, you or me, whoever. What is it? And I found that I know that there is a clearness of mind and a full heart that is present in those people, where they've either done some work, they've reconciled some things, they've let go of some things, they've confronted things that were holding them back. Like the thing that's not obvious, the unpronounced thing, the undefined thing, but it's a thing. And we all have them, right? Whether it's something we're holding on to, or it's guilt, or it's shame, or it's a relationship with money, or a limiting belief, or something we feel we're not deserving of, love, whatever it is, those things really hold you back, right? You've been in the entrepreneurial space for a long time. You know, too, you've been around so many people. You could have all the tactics in the world, but if you're not good here and you're not good here, forget it, right? At some point, it'll crack. And so I thought, what could we do to like take this in a different direction to help people out? And then it doesn't have to be just related to the real estate and mortgage industry or marketing space. Like every human could benefit from it. I'm like, okay, well, there's the title, The Better Human Project. I want people to ultimately be on some type of a pathway to becoming a better human, because that's what this is all about. If we're all evolving and getting better, we'll ultimately do much more business together, for each other, by ourselves, whatever. But we've got to be good here first. And so I thought, all right, that's going to be the focus. And I thought, all right, now let's get more specific. What are the things that most people are getting hung up? And I feel it's just that. It's the relationship with money, with overall success, and most importantly, themselves. Either their past self or their future self. The belief in their future self, or their past self that they either haven't forgiven or said it's okay to, or whatever. And I'm getting a little deep and woo-woo here, but I feel like really that is the thing that holds most everyone back. So it's been met with a lot of enthusiasm, and the event is on its way to becoming eventually, sold out here in the coming weeks, which I'm really excited about and was never really in doubt. But I am more excited about this event than any other event I've put on because of this big picture mission. And I feel like it's also going to bring so many more people into the orbit, because it's not limited to just industry professionals. But it's very important, I think, right now. And that's why I'm doing it.
Well, it's such a great title because it is to all human, right?
Right.
And there is, I love that you went deep, because that's humanity. And if that's missing, then we're missing the mark in business, personal relationships,
everything,
our children, like all relationships. So yeah, we have, in my experience, I had to let a lot of stuff go before I could have anything good come into my life.
Yeah.
Not thinking that was an issue. So I completely understand. I think we've all gone through these, being an entrepreneur by itself, you go through these ups and downs, these hurdles. Like it's a roller coaster.
Right.
Some days are really shitty and tough, and you feel alone, and
yeah, it's so alone.
Especially you're sitting behind your desk the whole time, and you're just like, and then you get on a call with a friend like you, and my whole mood has changed because you have this beautiful light about you, and this is why I think it's going to be such a great event, and I can't wait.
Thank you.
Anybody that wants to check this event out, please do. I mean, like you said, it's almost sold out. So
yeah. It's very accessible, and it's also being done at a convenient time of day by intention. So because I'm very mindful and hyper aware of how busy life is for everyone. But it's for 4 hours in the afternoon. You could easily fly in and out same day and make the event. So, which is what most people are actually doing.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone that's bought tickets for the most part has been outside the San Francisco market. The locals break late on this. They kind of decide the week of. That's just the way they do it. But everyone else has to plan, right? Like yourself included, because you have other things and other trips. But people are going to be in town for less than 24 hours for it. And again, that's made me feel very blessed that there's support for it and grateful. But also it's told me, I think we're on to something here. Because this is something I feel is going to be the first of many types of these events in the Better Human Project, and just focus more on us as individuals. So I'm really excited.
It's interesting. There's a main theme today. I am filming other shows. Just, FYI.
Yeah,
and
I'm not that special.
No. You are actually, I created my day around you.
That's very sweet of you.
This trip. because
I really
was
appreciate it.
very like, I know you come to Vegas, and I was like, I will make a day of podcasting around you. So you were the first person, and then
That means a lot.
Then I just made other arrangements for other guests.
No,
so.
I appreciate it. And it's an honor for me because like I admire and look up to you so much in what you've built and how we've connected, but you walk the walk. You're a very real one with what you do. Like you clearly embody all these things that you teach and preach and that you put out in your business and how you consult people and guide them. And that's my tribe. Like that's what I'm drawn to. So
thank you.
Anything for you.
So I want to ask, being a 2-time world champ in Taekwondo, how has that molded and shaped you into being where you're at and successful in business?
I think I wouldn't call myself a success in business. I'm just like I was when I was setting out to win each of those championships. Like I'm just someone who's very committed to process. And this is coming from somebody who, through multiple personality tests, doesn't have a lot of discipline or structure with things because I'm all over the place. But for some strange reason, when it would come to martial arts, I would stay very structured with things. So it was easy for me to create plans, systems, microprocesses to build up towards, because we hear a lot in business and in sports, like fall in love with the process, be committed to the process, stick to the process, believe in the process. But few people actually understand it. Instead of just recognizing it as like either a cliche or a phrase, they don't actually do anything with it. And it's why New Year's resolutions fail. People set a goal to do something, whether it's in business or athletically, no real plan behind it, and just think that it's somehow going to manifest itself because you said it. Saying it and acknowledging it and putting it out into the universe is one thing. And for many, it's a very big thing. But really, the majority of the work and what's going to determine whether this thing turns out to be a success or eventually become is going to be in all those micro steps of the process. So when I would compete, I would have, of course, the goal was to end up on the podium and, ideally end up with a gold medal around your neck so you could hear your national anthem, right? Like, it's what every person dreams about. But then I would really put that out to the point where I cannot obsess over it. I have to obsess over what needs to be done today to take a small micro step towards this thing that's happening in 6 months. So some people are so focused on 6 months, they forget about everything that happens between now and then. Some people think they can do both. You really can't. Yes, you're mindful of the end game, but really the fixation or the obsession is what has to be done today. What am I going to do to get just a little bit better today? And if you stack those on top of each other, which applies in business as well, whatever goal it is you're setting out to do, whether it's launching a business, creating a brand, building market share, winning something, you'll put yourself in a much better chance for success. It's never foolproof because so much of it, I shouldn't say so much, there's always a percentage of it that's out of your hands. I would always say on the days that I would compete, when I'd wake up, 80% of what's going to happen to me today is completely in my control, and I've actually already set that because of all the work I did to get here. I just have to go out and execute. The other 20% is in the universe's hands, and there's so many of those little things, the weather, the elements, the mats, if they're slippery. Oftentimes you compete at these levels, and many countries don't like the United States. So when you have judges that are from, say, European countries or whatever, and you've got 5 judges up there that are giving you a score, they may not like the fact that the stars and stripes are plastered on the back of my uniform, and they're like, I don't like them. So I've got that working against me. So there's a lot of things, but they're out of our control. But in business, I think you've got to have this commitment in the process, and it's the same in this. And that was ultimately how I feel it's existed in both professional and athletic worlds. And then even when I coached, because I coached for 10 years, I only competed for 7. But with the athletes, I would basically implore them to follow the same systems. And I feel like it's been helpful to everyone I've been around.
Yeah. Thank you for breaking that down, because it's like...
Might have been more than what you wanted, but yeah.
No. I appreciate the stories. I appreciate the whole system, because I think a lot of people don't know what it takes to be a 2-time world champ. That is part of who you are.
Yeah.
And part of that is getting those micro steps in. And everybody says motivation isn't the driving factor, it's discipline.
It is discipline. But I think one thing that will throw gas on that discipline and burn the fire even more is if there's a real strong calling or purpose. Like, I think everyone has to have a mission behind what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's to silence the critic that's been in your brain, or it's to shut up a naysayer or a hater or people that told you you're never going to do this. Maybe it's revenge. Maybe it's the memory of someone or something that you're doing it for. Like when people do something for a deceased relative or, you know, spouse, partner, child, whatever it is. Like those are very strong fueling centers. And if they're tapped into the right way, I genuinely believe people can be invincible in the mission. Like they literally can, like nothing will stop them. And I've felt that on a level. I mean, the first world championship I won, it was to silence basically the inner critic and the voice that ever said maybe you could never do this, you know, or that this is impossible, or that nobody that, you know, comes from where you are could do this, or what. It was that type of a voice. The second time was purely in the memory of my late friend that I'd lost, who I met. Well, I'd known him since we were in middle school, and I'll just quickly share the story. And he studied abroad our last year in college in Italy. So I went to visit him. We were dead broke. We literally just ate at McDonald's every day and slept on the trains. We took late night trains so that we would avoid having to pay for hostels and would just sleep on the trains. This worked out great. It was the time of my life. It was the best trip of my life. We went all over Italy, but we spent a lot of time in Rome because the movie, this was the year 2001, the movie The Gladiator had come out just the year before, so it was still very big. Everyone wants to see the Colosseum. So we went there and we sat outside. It was really warm and we had bottles of water. We were sweating. We were just kind of looking at it sitting on this rock. And we said, one day when we have money and we're older and we could actually stay in hotels, and maybe when we're married and we're going to come back here with our kids, or we'll come back. Well, he passed away just 2 years later. He had committed suicide. And I always had that in the back of my mind that I'd go back to Rome one day at some point. So that particular year when they announced that the World Championships were going to be held in Rome, they weren't actually supposed to be. They were supposed to be in Sardinia, Italy. And they got canceled. So it was almost fate. They're like, they're being moved to Rome, which would have made a more logical choice anyways, being such a more international, easier city to fly into than Sardinia to host like a World Championships. But it's just the way it broke down. And I had this very powerful dream. And this ties back into purpose and fuel. And I literally heard his voice at the end of the dream, the night before I decided to commit to it, saying, meet me at the Colosseum. And that was it. That was absolutely it. And everything I did was fueled with him like kind of being there with me. And it was a magical ending. Like no athlete gets to call their ending of saying, this is how I'm going to go out and have it end the way it did for me, which was like beautiful and perfect. And like it was so much magic involved in it. Like even at the event, the opening ceremony music was the Gladiator soundtrack. And then I was just thinking to myself, like how many more signs could there be? You know, it just kept, and there was even more stories, which I won't get into, but there were just so many things that led it up. But the point of this story is that processes and discipline and everything is very important. It's 90% of it. But if you can have 10% of it etched and burning in your heart of some strong calling or purpose or mission or some score you're settling, you'll be invincible.
Yeah. Your why, your story. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
I love sharing it. Thanks for listening to it.
It's so great. Oh my God. I want to talk to you really quick about LFG.
All right.
LFG is a podcast. This is Arjun's podcast. I know that you told me when it launched, but you were on the fence a little bit about doing this show? So how did you decide? Like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to LFG.
And your audience, are we allowed to tell them what it stands for? So LFG stands for exactly what you think it stands for. It stands for Let's Fucking Go. And it's more of a mantra of just like not holding back and just going, right? Like, don't be cautious, don't play it safe, just go for it, right? Or like when you get into that mode, like it's time to go. And it's nothing special that I came up with. I mean, people have been saying it for a while. How it started, because LFG is really a media company. And underneath it are so many different things, including the podcast. There's the LFG Energy podcast. There's LFG Energy Presents, which is hosting the event in February. That's kind of my event company. So there's a lot of different things. And then we also have a community called a society, which you are going to be part of, and we'll speak to our whole group. I've had you speak to other agents, but I'm going to have you speak to the whole group, which is a really cool thing. But it's crazy how it started because it was by pure accident. So I had it kind of written down on this like scratch pad, and I had a idea of a logo. I didn't know what it was going to become, but I had booked Ryan Serhant, this was 2 years ago, to come out to San Francisco for an event. The contract was signed, the deposit was paid. I have my website up. We're selling tickets for it. It's a one-night only event. It was just kind of an in and out trip for him. And the first I was trying with him, so I was really excited, scared, anxious. It was like a huge risk I was taking, especially coming out of COVID. And their company called me and said, we've got a little bit of a problem. I said, what's the problem? They said, we just realized you're a mortgage guy. I said, yeah, duh. Like, what did you think I was? Car salesman or something, an actor? Like, no, this is what I do. Hence why I'm bringing him in. He does real estate. They said, well, he has this exclusivity thing with a bank, a very well-known national bank, and he's not allowed to kind of like co-market or do anything in relation. Do you have another thing that we could do it with? I'm like, I couldn't put it in the name of my corporate office because that's a mortgage company. Strike there. I thought of everything, and they're like, don't you have another entity? And I was just on the phone. I literally looked down at the LFG logo. I go, as a matter of fact, I do. It's LFG Energy Presents. They're like, what is that? I go, it's a media company. I literally made it up in the moment. They're like, perfect. We'll redo the contract and send it right over to you. They're like, that sounds pretty cool. Has it done a lot of things? I'm like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's done a lot of things. It's doing a lot. It's got a lot of big things in store. They're like, okay. I'm like, hung up the phone. I'm like, phew, I don't have to pull my event off the calendar and like refund all these people their tickets. And now I need to make something of this because I just told them. And now I've spoken it into existence. Now I need to really create it. So I started like turning it into something, but that's how LFG started. But to bring it back full circle to your question, like with the podcast, I was a little bit, I've always wanted to do it. I just didn't know what it would be really truly about because I love personal growth, hence why, the Better Human Project is coming into life or coming to life. And I knew this podcast would be in that space of personal growth, but there's so many, and there's so many amazing ones. And in fact, the guy that runs my podcast for me even tried to talk me out of it, which is why I knew he was very good at what he does. Oh. He doesn't just take your money. Like, he actually challenges you when you have an idea to see if there's really something there and make you defend it, And he'll almost like poke holes at it. And then if you're like, I guess maybe I don't have anything. He's like, see, I don't want to take your money because this is a lot of effort. It's very expensive. And unless you do it right, it's a waste of time. So when I told him this, he said, it sounds like it's a bit of a personal growth space. And then he's like, not to burst your bubble, that space is very crowded with people who are far more influential than you'll ever be. And I said, I get that. Totally. He didn't mean it in a mean way at all. He was just being very objective and matter of fact. But I knew he's a very sincere guy. He's one of the kindest humans I've met, actually. Tremendous guy. But when I told him that I want this to actually focus on the patterns of resilience and what people had to tap into, like, I don't want to focus on the success. There's so many podcasts or so many shows, books that talk about someone's success journey. And really the majority of the story is on their success, like when they got there. But I want to talk about when this person was potentially addicted to something, or they were on the streets, or they were ready to quit, or they lost their family, or they lost everything they owned, or, even in darker stories, like where they were suicidal. And how did they come out of this? That story of resilience, to me, is like what the whole human spirit's about, and how to endure and how to persevere and fight on. I was like, that's what I want. And he's like, okay, you're onto something. He's like, I think you got something here. So every guest we've had on the show has had some great story of resilience or something that they've overcome. And it's been amazing. I've had so much fun with it. It is a lot of work. He was not lying about that. It literally is a full, you're a podcaster too. You have this great show. Like, it's a lot of work and effort. I mean, you flew across the country today to make this happen. Like, it's not easy stuff. Right. But you do it because you love it and you know that the audience is going to be served well by the content and the guests that you bring on. And that's how I felt with it. So yeah, I nearly wasn't able to do it, but I had to kind of challenge myself and almost stand up for the idea and go deep on it before the whole show came into existence. And now we can't turn around. Like, we have to keep pushing this rock up the hill.
I am loving it. I'm loving the show. I'm loving that
Thank you
went
so much.
for it.
It means a lot that you listen. It really does.
Yeah. I mean, I love the perseverance, the resilience, because you're right. This is my second show. I did a show before this.
Okay.
For almost 3 years. And I was in the relationship space, and that's also flooded. And it's like, yes, I had some great guests and I met some amazing people, heard some amazing stories. But at the end of the day, it didn't do much. Like, it was for a few reasons. I mean, really, my heart and my passion, I was good at it, but that doesn't always move the needle.
Not always,
you know, and I felt like there was something a little flat for me personally.
Okay.
So I love I'm very passionate about what I do, but I also want to have like that type of guest on, because now I'm only doing in studio. I'm not doing anything on virtual. Zoom, because I don't have the same connection with my guests. No. I don't have the same, experience, and I feel that you can see that.
Yes.
And you can hear it. So
it lacks the transference of energy, right?
Right.
Or exchange of it. You just can't, there's only so much that can be done two-dimensionally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm addicted to these now because I think they're fun. And at the end of the day, you said it is expensive and I'm not making money, but this is, I don't do it for that reason.
It fills your cup.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I'm with you on that.
Bringing value to you guys.
That's right. Absolutely. She does.
I really love that so much. And I'm glad that you keep having, like, okay, last question. How do you get these amazing guests on your show? That is a gift in itself.
Well, I mean, some of it is persistence. Some of it is also just going to places and leveraging, the events that I'm at and asking the right people and then making an intro. So, some recent guests that I have, one of who you'll meet at my event, which is Amberly Lago. I didn't know Amberly, but I knew she was speaking at my good friend Renee's event called AmpCon, which was taking place in Dallas this last summer.
Okay.
And I reached out to Renee, and look, people just forget, like sometimes it is just as easy as asking the question. It's that simple. So I asked Renee, I said, look, I'm going to set up my suite at your event as a podcast studio, just like you're doing. I want to maximize the time, and I want to try and get like a few shows done while I'm here because I want to do them in person, just like you. I want to avoid anything that's, through a platform.
Yeah.
And, done two-dimensionally and not in person. And you're going to have some amazing speakers at your event. So I want to figure out who I could target and if I can just land 3 or 4. Well, it worked out beautifully because he made the introductions for me because he's a good friend. So it ended up being so much easier. He made a direct and all 4 of the people that I did, including Amberly at that event, were also willing to do it. They were all very kind and open with their time. And we had to juggle some things around. Like we shot one show at 11 p.m. one night because it was just the only time we could do it because they had other things to do. But they were all willing to do it. And I'm eternally just so forever grateful to all of them for making that time because the experiences, and I'm sure you feel this, when you're sitting down, yes, you're making this for your audience and because it's going to be tremendous content and you hope it's going to have an impact on someone's life or their business or their approach. It'll move the needle somewhere. But for me, these shows have had such a huge impact on me just sitting there listening. Like I'm moved to tears sometimes or I'm really affected on a very deep, visceral, emotional level. And so for me, it's a huge gift to just do it. I'm getting so much out of it myself, which then fuels the desire to keep doing more. So that's how I've gotten guests. And I think people just overlook this. You can leverage other relationships to help you get guests. And then once you have those guests, now you have a little bit of credibility to your show or to whatever it is you're doing, whatever the platform is. And you can build on that and continue to leverage and continue. And people are so much more willing to help you than you believe. Yeah. Even at Amberly as an example, she's even told me, if there's other guests I can help you get because I enjoyed our conversation so much, I will help you. I mean, I wouldn't have had that had I not reached out to Renee and gone to his event and made the effort to do my show there and said, can you connect me with anyone? There's this person, this person, this person. Do you think I could maybe connect with them? He's like, sure, I'll make it happen. I'm like, really? Because I have a good established connection with him. He was willing to help me because he's a huge giver. So the world is full of a lot more of these people than we give ourselves credit for. You just have to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah, push the right button.
Well, you were there too for him. And so I'm sure he saw that as
No, I mean, he's so influential in my life. For anyone who knows him and follows him, he's a force in this world. I think he's literally the best performance, stage presence, public speaking coach there is, I would say, in the world.
Wow.
He's that tremendous. I mean, there's a reason why the FBI and Fortune 500 companies bring him in to do work with him. So I never want to miss his event. And there's always great people at his event. So that would be my advice. Renee Rodriguez.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I would just encourage people, if you're trying to build a show or build anything, leverage the people you have around you. And if you don't have good people around you, get good people around you and leverage their friends. Just leverage, ask the questions, Keep poking the bear until you get the answer you want.
Well, it's always no unless you ask.
That's right.
Yeah, and always surround yourself with more important, more successful people than you.
100%. Absolutely.
That is the first rule. Thank you so much for being on the show today. I your, experience and all the things are so valuable. And I know everybody listening here learned so much from you today. So
I appreciate you having me on. It was a big honor for me and I was just as excited. So thanks for including me to be part of your community. I can't wait to see you at our event.
Always.
And I just love everything that you put out into the world too. So I'm always behind you.
Where can people find you?
Instagram is probably the best place to find me, at Arjun Mortgage. which is the same handle for our YouTube channel and everything else. And then also the podcast itself, which is the LFG Energy podcast.
Yeah. If you found this episode valuable, and please like and subscribe, that button below, and follow me on Instagram, Celeste Moore Image, and find me at celestemore.com. And thanks again, guys.